When I was 19, I was diagnosed with polycystic ovarian syndrome. That is a chronic illness that kind of alters your hormone production and can cause cysts on your ovaries. One of the symptoms of that is not menstruating, like absence of a period. So I'm 22 and I've just moved back home from college. I have transferred to a new location for my job. I have just moved in with my boyfriend and life looks okay. Unfortunately, my relationship ends and I'm forced to find a new place to live. And I've been feeling kind of sick. So I go to the doctor and it's not uncommon for routine visits with my doctor to take a pregnancy test because of my absence of my period. I find out that I'm pregnant and I'm unsure as to how. When I was first diagnosed, my doctor had originally told me that I would never be able to conceive. So this came as a shock to me. I realized what must have happened when I must have gotten pregnant was when my insurance had lapsed and I wasn't able to get my prescriptions in about January. So that put me pretty far along, but we weren't sure. I didn't know where to go. I wasn't ready to tell my family, so I wasn't ready to bill my insurance. From there, my doctor recommended a clinic. They didn't have any resources readily available for not free clinics. So what they found was they recommended this clinic. It was called the Pregnancy Resource Center, and there was a couple locations around town. I made an appointment and I went out there, and they put me through a counseling session. I had to talk about my feelings and my thoughts about pregnancy and parenthood. And I was supposed to get an ultrasound, but they said their nurse wasn't in and I'd have to come back another day. After that, I made an appointment at a different location where I had to go through another hour-long counseling, and I had an ultrasound. As I'm talking to the people there, things are a little weird, a little off to me. I realize that this is there's a lot of religious undertones, and I'm not a religious person, so I'm a little confused as to why. I asked them, is this a religiously affiliated place? And they said yes, which then made it clear to me that this is a crisis pregnancy center and not a health clinic. It made sense because they didn't offer anything other than pregnancy tests and ultrasounds, and some minor resources for pregnant people, like clothing and diapers and things like that. I went through with the ultrasound because I needed the information. I was willing to tough it out until, as they're talking to me, I had asked them not to show me, and they showed it to me anyways, as they were acting as if it was a diagnostic ultrasound, which I would find out later when they handed me the printouts of my ultrasound that it was not a diagnostic ultrasound. They would say really awful, macabre type things to try and engage me, and then incite me because I was clearly upset. They would say things like, they would pretend to measure things out and things like that. And they said things like, oh, let's check if the head is still attached. And even if I was this was a planned pregnancy, who would want to hear that? That's, it was really upsetting. They told me I was 16 weeks and I left as soon as I could. And I did not go back. Although they called me at least 3 times a day for the next 2 weeks until I told them after I had made a decision what that would end up being. I then knew that this information was unreliable because of the way they had treated me. They didn't do anything to ensure my trust in them. So I decided that I would have to tell my family eventually, and I would just go to the hospital, the local medical university, and I would just figure it out from there. I just have to deal with it. And I was willing to do that because I knew that I needed to figure this out. I went to the hospital and they were really wonderful to me. They gave me an actual diagnostic ultrasound, which then put me at 26 weeks, not 16 weeks. And they told me that the fetus had a duplex kidney, and so there was going to be some further, if I did pursue the pregnancy, that it would need to have surgery almost immediately. I then sat down with the doctor, and I told them that I was ultimately looking for an abortion if that was accessible to me, and they said that they didn't know. The Reproductive Health Equity Act had just passed in Oregon, so there was no abortion restriction in Oregon really anymore. I thought that would be in my favor. I was wrong, because stigma still exists and people ultimately didn't want to help me. This doctor said she would help me if she could get simple majority approval from her board of doctors for the perinatal department, and unfortunately I did not get that. They didn't have enough evidence or whatever they needed to feel comfortable providing that service to me. But she did sit me down and tell me that if I chose to pursue the pregnancy, she wanted to do my OBGYN, she would help me, she'd be there for me. She also said that if I chose to terminate the pregnancy, she would put the resources together to get me to a clinic that would help me, and that she'd help me find funding, and that she'd be there for me in that way too, which was a huge relief. No one had offered me any support for my decision or the fact that I had a choice. I had a lot of people treating me like I was very fragile, and because I made my existence of being so pregnant unknowingly made them very uncomfortable. So I ended up calling the clinic. They said they'd be able to take me if I came before the end of the week. But the cost of the procedure would come out to about $10,500. I'm a college student. I don't have that kind of money. I don't directly know anyone with that kind of money. So I didn't know what I was going to do. I sat my parents down and I told them what was going on. And although not thrilled with me, they were supportive. They were very respectful, and they told me it's whatever you need to do, and ultimately left me to make those decisions and kind of put those resources together. So from there, I called the clinic back and I said, I'm going to try and make this work. I don't have any money, but I'm going to look for it. I'm going to find it. And because this is what I need to do. This is is the only choice that makes sense for me. From there, they put me in touch with two funds that would later become the Northwest Abortion Access Fund, who helped me fund about $1,000 of my procedure. The National Abortion Federation then put forth another $1,000. And through a social network, I'm gonna start that part over. So through my familial network and friends and family, I guess word had kind of gotten out slowly that I was pregnant. And a family member of a friend of a family member of mine came forward and was like, I'd like to help you. They had quite a bit of wealth, and they said, I've been in a situation similar to yours, and that I'd like to help you, like kind of in a pay it forward type of way. It's hard to accept a lot of money like that, but I didn't reject it. There's no, someone was literally coming forward and like answering my prayers, and there's no way I was saying no. So they paid the deposit for my procedure, which is about $6,000. And and they helped pay for my flight to New Mexico, which is where the clinic was. I did have to go out of state. They helped pay for the hotel room, because the whole procedure in total would take about a week. I got there on Labor Day, and I left about 6 days later. I was there about a week. I come in the first day, Monday, and then through many days of dilation, and I would leave on Saturday. And I'd have to come back and just return to my life like none of it ever happened, like it was a 2-week fever dream or something. Which, you know, it wasn't easy to have it all happen so quickly, but I'm very grateful that people stepped up and, you know, believed in me and supported me, and helped me through that time in my life. If it wasn't for those people, I would probably be a parent, and I can't imagine that with where my life is right now. I wouldn't have been the smart or safe or healthy choice for I or the potential child. So I started sharing my story. I've started to share my story because when I was pregnant and trying to decide what I wanted to do and what I could do and what made the most sense, during all that research, I couldn't find a single story that looked like mine, that even remotely reflected mine. Every story of later abortion or third trimester abortion had a lot to do with fetal anomaly or had to do with risk to the mother's health, and I didn't have either of those things. I just knew what I wanted and I knew what I needed, and I didn't stop until I got it, ultimately. But there was a lot of doubt in there. There was a lot of stigmatizing of myself, I guess, because I couldn't find stories like mine. It's easy to make the assumption that there are no stories like mine, which I later found was not true. I will choose to share my story so publicly and so presently because I hope that someone doesn't have to search as hard as I did. And I hope that if someone in my situation or a situation similar to mine can go on the internet and find my story and maybe not feel so alone. There's a lot of rhetoric around abortion. It's very binary. People kind of put abortions into good abortion and bad abortion. Good abortions being, unfortunately, rape, incest, fetal anomaly, risk to mother's health, and bad abortion being choice. But ultimately, abortion is abortion, and people are accessing health care that's available to them, and there's nothing wrong with that, and only making it harder to access the health care they need